An unidentified male was found in Clocaenog Forest, Denbighshire, in November 2015, dubbed the Clocaenog Forest Man. The remains were found by two brothers whilst camping. They were attending the Wales Rally, Great Britain. The brothers went looking around the area of their campsite for firewood, but they found a partially buried skull underneath the forest undergrowth. After examining it, they realised it was human and called the police. The police did a thorough search of the forest over the next 5 weeks and found an almost complete skeleton, close to the Clocaenog portion of the rally track, very close to two known forest roads. Two pieces of clothing, a dark Pringle jumper and a decomposing pair of Marks & Spencer's dark red underwear were found, though they could not be determined to be related to the skeletal remains. The area around the forest was also close to where Edward Carthy's body was found in 1995, killed and dumped by known serial killer Peter Moore. Early estimates show the time of death were estimated to show the body had been dumped around 20 years ago, as the forest had only been planted in 1985. Later though, forensic anthropologists estimated he had been killed between 2004 and 2010 by blunt force trauma to the head and then dumped in the forest. Forensic were then able to get a full DNA profile. They believe the man to be born before 1950, likely over 54 but more likely in his 60s at the time of death. The forest man was likely to have been well built and stood at between 5'8" and 5'10". Unusually, he was missing all of his posterior molars but had extensive work done to his front teeth later in life. During life, he suffered from osteoarthritis. There were also injuries to his spine, including a fused vertebrae, a broken nose, and possibly an injury to his left wrist, so he would have been in some pain and had restricted movement. He had a number of crowns that appeared like they were done in the UK. He also had a very worn temporary plastic crown that had a remedial filling, an uncommon procedure here in the UK. In 2016, the police published their own dental records for him to dentistry journals across the United Kingdom, and released photos of the jaw in hope that the dentist who did the work might recognise their own work and aid in the investigation. The police had also run his DNA through the UK database and a UK missing persons database, but it didn't come back with any matches. The jumper and underwear that were also found were also dated. The jumper was determined to have been manufactured between 2000 and 2004, and the underwear were manufactured in 1999. Serial killer Peter Moore wrote a letter to the police saying he knew who the man was, a mature student at a nearby university, but he didn't give a name but said he was in exactly the same spot that Edward Carthy was found. Journalists later found the name Roger Evans, who went missing in his first year of university at Aberystwyth in 1996. In March 2017, police met and discussed with serial killer Peter Moore, but later dismissed his claims due to conflicting dates. In September 2016, police released a picture of what they believed he looked like and an age progression photo in hopes someone might recognise him. Police also gave out leaflets to attendees of the 2017 Wales Rally to help spread the word. As of this video, he is still unidentified, and what truly happened to him is still unknown. In my opinion, it sounds like he may have grown up in another country with poor dental care, and moved to the UK later, giving him access to dentistry. Or he came into wealth later on in life and had his front teeth done. It's sad that the man still remains unidentified, and we may never know what truly happened to him.
The crime scene is about a mile from Llyn Lake near Pentre Llyn Cummer. It's an extremely isolated part of North Wales.
I'm Detective Superintendent Iestyn Davies from the North Wales Police Major Incident Team. I'm currently the Senior Investigating Officer for this murder.
I am Detective Sergeant Laura Griffiths, and I am one of the investigating officers in this case.
It's been almost 3 years since the body of a man was found in Clocaenog Forest, North Wales. He remains unidentified. Laura and I will present to you the circumstances of this case, and during the course of this video, provide information which will hopefully lead to someone making that crucial link and help identify this victim. The background to this case is that on Saturday the 14th of November 2015, the Wales Rally GB stages were being held in North Wales, specifically within Clocaenog Forest. Late that evening, a spectator found what he considered to be a human skull within wooded area of the forestry, and North Wales Police were alerted.
The following day, a pathologist confirmed the remains to be human, and over the following 3 weeks, we recovered the almost complete skeletal remains of a man. This photograph shows the skeletal remains we recovered from the location, and what we were able to produce for the subsequent examinations completed by the pathologist and our experts. Following the post-mortem examination of the remains, our pathologist told us that the man had been murdered, and the location from where he was recovered was likely deposition site. Some of the injuries sustained were as a result of blunt force trauma to the skull.
So, what else did the post-mortem reveal? It revealed a number of significant features about this person. We know that he was at least 54 years of age when he died, and probably over 60 years of age. We have an estimated height to this man of about 5'10", and he was probably a well-built man. It also identified older fractures to the body as well as medical conditions. This man has sustained a fracture to his nose at some stage in his life. He suffered from osteoarthritis and had fusion in his vertebrae. Both these conditions would likely to have given him symptoms of pain in his affected joints and reduced movement during life.
So, what else did we recover from that scene? We found fabric remains close to the body, and subsequent enquiries identified that the remains were that of a large-size green Pringle jumper, which was sold between 2000 and 2004. Here is a picture of what that jumper would have looked like. We also found a label for a pair of Marks & Spencer's men's briefs in a dark red colour. This label was for a waist size of between 36 and 39 inches and sold between 1999 and 2000. I must stress, however, that we cannot categorically link these items to the body, but they were found in very close proximity.
The most important evidential clue that we have in this case is that remarkably forensic scientists were able to obtain a full DNA profile from the body. Unfortunately, this sample was not matched on the National DNA Database, and neither was it matched on the National Missing Persons DNA Database. Because of this, we sought further experts to give us further information about this body.
We instructed Dr. John Rosey, who is a forensic odontologist. He examined the teeth of our victim, and here is what he had to say.
7 teeth were subsequently recovered at the scene. He'd not been very dentally aware in his younger life, and he'd lost all his 12 posterior molars and 1 upper premolar. So he went to great lengths to have some extensive dental treatment done of very high quality, including crowns, root fillings, and that has formed the basis of my dental examination.
He believed the crowns and root fillings were carried out between 1980 and 2000, and that a dentist would be able to recognise his own work.
By looking in more detail at the x-rays that we've taken, root fillings, there's a whole system of series that you can use. So dentists tend to plump for one preferred system and then say, oh, that could be one of mine. Hopefully there are sufficient teeth there with sufficient evidence, almost to act as a calling card so that somebody can identify this person.
Further tests on the victim's teeth by a specialist in radiocarbon dating identified that this man was born before 1950.
We subsequently asked for a facial reconstruction of the skull to see if we could get a likely image of how this man looked. Professor Caroline Wilkinson conducted this work, and here are her findings.
These remains weren't particularly unusual. There was quite a lot intact. There wasn't very much missing. It was a relatively straightforward process from skull to finished face. There were some unusual characteristics to it in relation to some trauma to the nose and some heel trauma to the nose and some loss of teeth.
This is the first image made from the skull of the victim.
The police thought that the individual was likely to be in his 50s, and then as more evidence became available, it became clearer that he was older than previously thought. So we did produce 3 different end products for this face. So it's the same face but with different amounts of age-related changes. So we've got him in his 50s, in his 60s and then older than that.
Examination of the roots found at and near to where the body was recovered are able to give us a far closer time frame as to the likely period in which this body was deposited at the location. We are prioritising the period between 2004 and 2010. I stress, however, that this is our priority period and we are not ruling out that the victim was left at the location prior to 2004.
Based on all the evidence collected, I have a really effective means of eliminating names put forward in this case, and would therefore encourage anyone who thinks they know the true identity of this man to come forward. He is likely to have been native of Western Europe based on further interpretation of his DNA profile. So why did our victim end up here? Here is a map of North Wales, and in the centre of your screen you will see the spot where we recovered the body of our victim. A closer aerial image illustrates the isolated location where this body was left. Did the person or persons responsible have some sort of previous knowledge of this area? Is it potentially somewhere they had visited previously? It's a location where the Wales Rally GB, formerly the RAC Rally, has been held for many years, and Llynbrennig, which is close by, has been a popular sailing venue attracting thousands of visitors over the years.
We would encourage you to consider all the information and clues as to the identity of this man, and if you think you can help in any way, please contact us. You can contact us by phone on 0300 330 0101. You can access our media portal where you can leave a message which will come directly through to the investigation team. You can also contact us anonymously via Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111.
Maybe someone watching this video recognises the reconstruction photo or knows someone who's been missing for a long time with his description. You never know. If you have any information, please contact any of the information provided now. In 2016, an unidentified male skeleton was found in a disused factory building on Upton Lane, Forest Gate, London. The unidentified skeleton was discovered partially inside a bin liner and partially in a blue sleeping bag buried amongst rubble and dust. Police and archaeologists searched the 4-storey building for evidence, removing and sifting through more than 100 sacks of rubble, whilst forensic anthropologists examined the remains. His skull had a rather large crack down the left side going towards the back. It was later determined he died from multiple blunt force trauma blows to the head. A DNA sample was able to be taken from the remains, but no match was found on either the UK database or the UK Missing Persons database. It was determined that the mystery man would have stood between 5'4" and 5'8". Professor Gordon Cook of the Scottish University's Environmental Research Centre performed radiocarbon data analysis on the bones, teeth and hair. The results from the lateral incisor and the second molar indicated that the victim was born between 1971 and 1974 and died between 2003 and 2006, making him in his 30s at the time of death. Ethnicity is unknown, but a packet of chewing gum and a piece of clothing was found in a sleeping bag, but the tobacco was only officially sold on the Indian subcontinent, so police believe he may have been from around there, though he could have been from Eastern, Southern or Central Asia, European, Northern African or of Middle Eastern descent. Blood matching his DNA was also later found on the first floor of the building, indicating he was initially attacked in the building his skeleton was found in. In September 2019, police released a facial reconstruction of the skull created by specialists at the Dundee University in hopes that someone will recognise him. Officers from Specialist Crime North are investigating this crime, with Detective Inspector Darren Jones leading the inquiry. He said, "I would urge people reading this appeal, especially those living in the area where this man's remains were found, to look closely at the reconstruction and think about whether you may have seen him or not. Does he look familiar to you?" End quote. As of this video, no arrests have been made, no weapons have been found, and he still remains unidentified. If you recognise this man or have any information, please use one of the contacts on screen now. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you feel this channel is interesting to you. Much love everyone and keep safe out there. The world is a beautiful place, but also a dangerous place. Stay safe.